Hello, watching L24 Midnight News coming to you live from Algiers, and to the headlines. Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, in a phone call with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, agreed on a May meeting in Moscow to discuss bilateral relations and prospects for energy cooperation. Following talks with Zionist officials in Al-Quds, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met the Palestinian leadership in the occupied West Bank city of Ramallah amid a sharp rise in tensions in the region. A second nationwide strike disrupted French electricity production, public transport and schools on Tuesday as workers protested against the government's pension reform. By defeating Niger 5-0, Algerian national team qualified Tuesday for the final of the African Cup of Nations CHAN 2022, where they will face Senegal at Nelson Mandela Stadium on the 4th of February. Hello again and welcome, starting from Algeria and from the capital of the West, Oran, where Ayman Mahyous scored 2 goals as the host Algeria hammered Niger 5-0 to reach the final of the 2022 African Championship of home-based players. Mahyous scored his 4th and 5th goals of the tournament in the first half. After that, his teammates Ayoub Abdellaoui and Soufiane Bayazid, along with 2 other goals and one by Niger defender, secured the definitive victory for the Desert Warriors at Miloud Hadfi Stadium in Iran. This win gives Algeria the first chance ever to be part of the final of the tournament on the 4th of February at Nelson Mandela Stadium here in Algiers. And in this edition, they will be playing against Senegal, whom they beat Madagascar 1-0.
Well, the players respected exactly what we wanted to do. We knew how Niger team plays. Their strength was really the long balls, how to manage long balls. We were afraid of that. We saw it against Ghana and so on. So the players had to respect the instructions that we have repeatedly given them. And then I insisted on playing on the right side. That's what we did. And I'm happy because we scored 5 goals.
Et je suis content parce qu'on a marqué 5 buts.
Still with this victory, and just after the end of this game, President of the Republic Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune congratulated the Algerian team after reaching the final of the CHAN 2022. President Tebboune, on his official Twitter account, described that path as an honorable journey and a deserved qualification for CHAN final. According to a statement of the presidency, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, received a phone call from his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, in which they exchanged congratulations on the occasion of the 60th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries, where they expressed their satisfaction with the record development in bilateral cooperation in all fields. According to a statement of the presidency, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, received today Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, the personal representative of Emir of State of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. An official statement from Burkina Faso said that at least 28 people, including soldiers and civilians, were killed in the 2 attacks by armed attackers in north of the country. The army said a combat unit in Falan Goto, near its border with the Niger, came under attack, and then 10 soldiers, 2 people from volunteer forces and civilians were killed. In the same line of thought, Algeria condemned the 2 terrorist attacks that targeted a combat unit in northern Burkina Faso and civilians in the south of the country, killing and injuring dozens of soldiers, volunteers and civilians, according to a communique by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad.
Algeria strongly condemns the two terrorist attacks that targeted on Sunday 29 and Monday 30 January in Burkina Faso, a combat unit in Falaguntu, and civilians in the Cascades region, killing and injuring dozens of soldiers, volunteers, and civilians.
German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius considered that keeping his country's forces in Mali until May 2024 is a waste of time and money and is meaningless at the present time. In a statement to a German newspaper on Monday, Pistorius expressed his doubts about the German forces' ability to perform their missions within the framework of MINUSMA peacekeeping mission in Mali. Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Mr. Mtala Mamra, received on Tuesday at the ministry's headquarters the President of the Andean Parliament, Mr. Gloria Flores, who participated as a guest in the proceedings of the 70th Conference of the Union of Parliaments at Member States of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation.
Para mí es un honor estar en Argelia.
We trust Algeria and its support for the just causes and people's right to self-determination. Therefore, we'd like to cooperate closely with Algiers within the framework of integration between Latin America and Africa. We talked about our common program between the two regions and what both people of Africa and Latin America want. We would also like to support people who suffer, especially against colonialism, and to work towards achieving comprehensive and collective justice.
Para el bien vivir de nuestros pueblos.
Still with Foreign Affairs Minister activities, Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Mtala Mamra, received at the ministry's headquarters the President of the African Parliament, Mr. Fortin Charambia, who participated as a guest at the 70th Congress of Federation of Parliaments of the OIC member states.
We are here, first of all, to express gratitude to this country for the support to this continent, historically, in liberating the continent, and also express support for the role that this country played. It shared challenges, issues of food security on the continent, what the role of the parliament can do, issues of terrorism, peace and security, issues of infrastructure, electricity or energy, and all the other related issues, peace and security, unconstitutional changes of government on the continent. All these issues we have discussed.
Still in the African continent, the first edition of the Algerian-Libyan production exhibition organized in Algiers demonstrated the joint desire to advance economic cooperation between Algeria and Libya. Miriam Zia.
The Algerian-Libyan cooperation and coordination is witnessing a qualitative leap forward, such as initiatives like the Africa Transport and Transit Trade Forum and exhibition. This presented a good chance to discover possible ways and means to promote trade between our two countries and Africa as a model regional partnership.
احنا مهتمين ان احنا نعزز العلاقه بين دوله ليبيا والجزائر.
We are interested in promoting the relation between Algeria and Libya in trade, industry and exports, and all relations. The exposition is an asset for Libyans and Libyan industry, so being here honors us as people and companies.
شرفنا احنا كاشخاص ليبيه وشركات صناعه ليبيه.
أقيم هذا الملتقى والمعرض اللي هو ملتقى.
This exhibition and forum, which is the Forum and Exhibition of Africa for Transport and Transit Trade, is held in Algiers and proves the importance of Algeria's role in its recent openness. Therefore, all economic operators in Libya seek to sign agreements, cooperations, and partnerships with Algerian economic operators.
The forum in its first edition, which witnessed the presence of 9 Libyan companies, demonstrates and reaffirms the will of both Algiers and Tripoli to strengthen efforts to enhance economic integration between the two sides and achieve the desired economic growth amidst the current global challenges.
نبحث على كيفية l'exportation.
We're looking for ways to export this product, but currently there are some challenges that are stopping us from exporting it to African countries, such as Libya and Senegal. So we're waiting to send this high-quality product to our brother countries.
Libya, Senegal, يعني الأفريقيين.
Indeed, this forum, along with the Algerian production exhibition to be held in Libya next month, affirmed the two countries' determination to give a new impetus to economic and trade partnerships and encourage the flow of mutual investment, awaiting the fruition of Algeria's vigorous efforts to reopen border crossings between Algeria and Libya.
Tunisian President Kais Saied said that the very low turnout in the parliamentary election shows that Tunisians no longer have confidence in parliament because of what he described as the absurdity that occurred in it during the past decade. The parliamentary results of the second round of the legislative elections are expected to be announced no later than February 1st. The final results are expected to be announced after the appeals files are closed no later than March 4th.
The turnout has not been announced definitively, but it must be interpreted in a different way. 90% did not vote because Parliament does not represent anything for them.
Moroccan in support of Palestine and against normalization movement and National Action Group for Palestine on Tuesday announced the organization of protests stand today, Wednesday, in the front of the parliament in the capital, Rabat. According to a statement by the front, this protest aims to denounce the daily crimes of Zionist entity committed against the Palestinians. The statement added that organizers affirmed that Moroccan people's rejection of the decision to normalize relations with the occupying Zionist entity. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas in the West Bank town of Ramallah on Tuesday. During the meeting, the U.S. Secretary Blinken stressed the importance that Biden administration places on resolving the long-running conflict with two-state solution. Nabil Khazini.
A visit in such a hostile atmosphere to use Washington's influence to stop the situation from worsening. Antony Blinken carried the message: the United States wants peace and stability in the region and also backs a two-state solution to the decades-long conflict.
So in the first instance, we believe it's important to take steps to de-escalate, to stop violence, to reduce tensions, and to try as well to create the foundation for more positive actions going forward.
The last step in Antony Blinken's trip to the Middle East ended with a meeting with the Palestinian president, Mr. Mahmoud Abbas. The violence has speeded in the last days. The Palestinian leader said the occupation authority is responsible for what is happening, blaming practices he said undermine the two-state solution and violate the signed agreements.
The complete cessation of unilateral Israeli actions, which violate the signed agreement and international law, is the main entry point for returning the political horizon, ending the occupation in accordance with the international references and the Arab peace initiatives in order to make peace and stability and security for all in our region and in the world.
Whether it is from the Republican or Democratic parties, the American approach in dealing with the Palestinian issue does not differ, as it mainly focuses in its content on the need to preserve the status quo, revive peace efforts, and the need to stop the escalation. The upsurge of Zionist brutality has caused in January alone 35 deaths among Palestinians. This is the bloodiest month since 2015.
Germany and the United States and Norway, among others, have already announced that they will supply armed vehicles to face the Russian operation. Kiev explains that so far it has 12 allies that will send combat vehicles. Hassan Burkan.
Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba said on Tuesday Ukraine will receive 120 to 140 tanks in the first wave of deliveries from the coalition of 12 countries. Kiev secured pledges from the West this month to supply main battle tanks to help resist Russia's full-scale military operation, with Moscow mounting huge efforts to make gradual advances in eastern Ukraine.
I can note that in the first wave of contributions, the Ukrainian armed forces will receive between 120 and 140 Western model tanks. These are Leopard 2, Challenger 2, M1 Abrams, and we are counting on Leclerc. This is not a low number, but we continue to work on both expanding the membership of the tank coalition and increasing the contributions of those already pledged.
This comes as Russia affirmed that its forces had taken control of Blahodanty, a village just north of Bakhmut in eastern Ukraine, where some of the heaviest fighting of the war has taken place in recent weeks.
On the Donetsk axis, a successful attack by the assault detachment volunteers undertaken with fire support from tactical and army aviation, rocket and artillery units of the South Task Force resulted in the liberation of Blahodatne settlement in the Donetsk People's Republic.
While Western countries keep affirming that the goal from assisting Ukraine militarily is not to escalate, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov affirmed that NATO has been directly involved in a hybrid warfare against Russia by combating through the actions of the Kyiv regime.
NATO has been directly involved in a hybrid war against Russia for quite a long time, a war which is implemented in its most hot dimensions through the actions of the Kyiv regime.
As support for Ukraine materializes, Kyiv and Western partners assure Russian President Vladimir Putin will launch the Russian military into a new broad attack as winter clears to make way for the arrival of a spring offensive.
Algeria strongly condemned the bombing that targeted a mosque in Pakistan, which led to dozens of deaths and injuries, and renewed its call to strengthen action at the regional and international levels in order to eradicate terrorism. A suicide bombing targeting a mosque inside the police headquarters in Peshawar, northwest Pakistan, killed more than 90 people and injured more than 200 others.
The authorities first told me to go to the police line, and then they said that the injured were being taken to the hospital. I went there, and he kept calling his cell phone, but it was switched off. Then they told me that he was at the mosque. He was a very religious person who recited the Quran and did good deeds. He had done studies and had joined the police force after graduating.
A second nationwide strike disrupted French electricity production, public transport and schools on Tuesday as workers protested against the government's plan to make people work longer before retirement. On the rail networks, only 1 in every 3 high-speed TGV trains was operating, and there were even fewer local and regional trains. In addition to this, half of primary school teachers walked off the job, as did all refinery staff and staff at public broadcasters, which played music instead of news programs.
There are many people. I don't agree with this concept. So the ball is once again in the court of the government and the president. Either we listen to the people or we have contempt for them.
We hope we will have more people today. The purpose is just to force the government to withdraw the reform.
Je suis né en 73, donc c'est l'année.
I was born in 1973. It's from that year that I'd need to work until at least 64 years of age, or until 67 if I want to receive a decent retirement package. I'm also here to represent that generation, but I'm thinking enormously about the younger generation who are in particular behind us. What is this system going to bring for them? And until what age are they going to have to work? Quite simply.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida pledged on Tuesday to strengthen ties, saying Russia's military operation in Ukraine and its growing military cooperation with China had created the tensest security environment since the World War II. After Stoltenberg visited Japan's Air Self-Defense Force base, where he inspected a fighter jet and other aircraft, the two leaders met in Japan's capital for discussions that covered topics including Russia's nuclear threat, joint military drills between Russia and China near Japan, and North Korea's development of nuclear weapons.
自由で開かれたインド太平洋の実現を含む
Today, we committed to further elevate Japan-NATO cooperation in order to maintain and strengthen the rules-based, free and open international order.
We agree that transatlantic and Indo-Pacific security is deeply interconnected. What happens in this region matters to NATO, and what happens in Europe matters to you. If President Putin wins in Ukraine, this would send a message that authoritarian regimes can achieve their goals through brute force.
The International Monetary Fund stated that it is expected the global economy to slow this year as central banks continue to raise interest rates to domestic inflation. But it also suggested that output would be more resilient than previously anticipated and that a global recession would probably be avoided, pointing to reopening of China's economy as among the reasons for more optimistic outlook. The IMF upgraded its economic growth projection for 2023 and 2024 in its closely watched World Economic Outlook report. The fund warned, however, that the fight against inflation was not over and urged central banks to avoid the temptation to change course.
What we are seeing after that is a stabilization of the economy, fully reopened and fully able to produce and consume, etc. And so that's a major factor behind our upward revision for China.
And now for more international news, let's have a round for this roundup.
Pope Francis arrived in Kinshasa on Tuesday on a visit to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is witnessing violence. The first stop on a tour that will also lead him to the southern Sudan. In the middle of the day, a number of Kinshasa residents began to gather in front of the airport. Their numbers increased in abundance amid an atmosphere of excitement to see him.
Tennessee residents gathered to hold a rally and a vigil to honor Tyre Nichols, who was beaten by police officers following a traffic stop on January 7.
I want peace. She spoke peace. I represent peace. I want to see that in the city of Memphis.
The Memphis Police Department has announced a 7th officer has been suspended as the investigation into Tyre Nichols' death continues.
Cypriots are choosing a new president. With only 1 week until the February presidential elections, candidates continue to deliver stump speeches at gatherings and meet with associations during the weekend. The issues they highlighted in their campaigns concerned issues in relation to the economy and the Cyprus problem, among others.
To this end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for being with us. For more updates, you can follow our social media platform. And all I can say for now, have a blessed day and good night.